So I think you'll all accept that you have between you enough knowledge, wisdom and experience, representative of Greater Manchester, and you started in Barlow Mall Community Centre in Bolton, tough estate. That was back in the early 90s, in Salford Keys, before it became Media City, where they didn't like black people. We got 3 offices and were there for 25 years. Martin, do you remember when going from Moss Side to Salford Keys, the Key was seen as another country, might as well have been a completely different country. And then they flew made a little journey.
That's why I hate Man United. No, we used to train at Odsall Sports Centre. We had to get off the 53 bus at White City and fight our way to Odsall and fight our way back. And that was every day for when we used to play basketball for Manchester Giants. So I just take Man United as a Salford team and just...
By the way, sport is not the panacea. Sport can be as tribal and create as much division, as much conflict as it can peace. So I always qualify, it is not the panacea, but it is certainly the vaccine, with the arts being the antidote. And if we get the community truly represented, as I've said to all of you, I think we start to come up with the art of the possible. I've always defended politicians, because politicians, once elected, we as those who elected them, so they go and do a good job. Good democracy is challenging those politicians, and when they don't get it right, it's your job, hopefully with surgeries, hopefully with petitions, hopefully with marches, because that's positive democracy. And at the moment, and okay, we've embarked in 4 or 5 of these since the beginning of the year, would that be right? Yeah, 5 of these across 3 major cities, and I do this as part of my everyday humbling. I either go back to school more than I wanted to go to school, or I go into environments to find out where the sweet spot is. And if I said to every single one of you now, if you all contributed 2 hours a week to the collective, you can change the lives of the young people, not only here, but the world. And everyone says, oh, that's pretty fanciful words, but it's true. And if you met 4 times a year, you become not only a movement, you become a sector of impact and change. It's really important, I think, with the quotes and the ideas, and when we talked about the action learning scenarios and why, on the basis of what happens next, because what you've all contributed to really does become invaluable. By the way, by Monday, and we give ourselves a weekend grace, but it's Tuesday today?
Tuesday, yeah.
By Friday, we will have a report based on all that you've contributed. That will be the nature of the reaction and the response. So in 24 Global Living, that report will be with you. Once that report is with you, it goes to where it needs to go to, because it's your collective voice, your collective ideas. All we have done is facilitated it using a method that we believe can be responded to and considered. The first mayoral term of Andy Burnham, we contributed to a Manchester youth offer. It was supposed to be app engaged with all the incentives, because we have a very discerning and very savvy youth consumer. They know their value, they know the value of their data, they know the value of their currency. And all of the ideas that was in the commonality would suggest reclaiming social media. I'd suggest that we've all lost the fight in the current realms of this bout, and we're going to really have to come up with the digital giants to come up with a fair, equitable means of providing balance. The need for relationships of trust, confidence and respect generationally will come from, and the social coaches were simply inspired by generations of people from the community, by the community, with the community. They are the heroes and heroines, they are the champions. But I can say that the Social Club Leadership Programme is inspired by 2 or 3 standouts, but one in particular, because boxing's been made reference to the late great Muhammad Ali. I've had a 20-year relationship with the Muhammad Ali Centre in Louisville, Kentucky, and Muhammad Ali's values of confidence, conviction, dedication, giving, respect and spirituality is something that is transcendent. And I really like this table because they brought it real. Black and white. Because we all want to avoid the elephant in the room, but sadly, in this green and not so green, pleasant land that we live in, we are reaching the most intolerant and tolerant time in recent years. And the reason that happens is if we sit on our hands and we think it's going to go away. Anyway, Tommy Robinson, the surfist, he always makes a very timely surface of a first anniversary of the right. Does anyone remember the riots of last year? How close we came to societal implosion. And by the way, it lies within the football culture, the lower divisions. Believe it or not, it was very close, but it was the WhatsApp group of the streets that stopped it. And two leaders of both racial divides realising nobody was going to win. So it's a bit of work to do, but I think if you collectively do it with spirit of momentum, you'll be fine. What you've contributed gives me a very exciting glee when we have to present this to the mayor. And I think the political will is more than there. I think that we have a government that need ideas when they're challenged rather than criticism. I do not believe in blame, I believe in responsibility and accountability. But I will say this, there is no young life lost that is priceless that suggests that ongoing, by the way, I never name the said individual because I feel it's a disrespect to the family still grieving, but we lost a 17-year-old last weekend. I want to look at every single one of you. That's still not acceptable. A young man of Greater Manchester had all the talent potential, no longer lives. He's on a slab. And what I'm saying is if any one of you can say it's got to come home before who feels it knows it, that's something I never want you to be directly or indirectly. Marlon, how many directly or indirectly can represent 3 decades of your life?
30, 40.
30 to 40. I've watched his journey though. The fact I've not seen him in about 10 years, here's the biggest achievement. He's alive and he's able to proudly talk about what his son's doing, what his daughter's doing, what his wife's doing. And by the way, some of them were so smart they live in Cheshire and the kids go to independent schools. There's no such thing as disadvantaged and disaffected. They're just labels. Because look at you. And Mr. Edkins and I are going to have a wonderful exchange because there is the brightest, happiest aspect of my work when it becomes an unexpected surprise. And everything's a surprise, but what I want to say to you, everything that you do, and by the way, we launched that national call to action in 2019. Boris Johnson was then Prime Minister, and all the great and the good came to University of London East. And then nothing happened. And are you going to leave it alone? Listen, no, anyone who knows me, I don't leave anything alone. Because I never like losing, so if we lose lives, that should be a great motivation for me. All of that is now happening. You are part, Manchester is our spiritual home, because this is where the journey started. It is a city of revolution. It is a city of activism. It's a city where, in Moss Side, the suffragettes were born. Didn't know that, because I sort of questioned the reason. Why am I here? Well, we're here for a reason, people. And Mary Seacole, before Florence Nightingale. And it goes on and it goes on. And the anti-apartheid movement. And nuclear energy and what it would do to the climate was equally Manchester driven. Queen Victoria sent troops to put down the insurrection of the Mancunians because they were a bit too feisty. By the way, you're not here to do popular work. If you're here to be popular, you're in the wrong place. But I tell you something now, if you become the collective unpopular, you will be in a very extraordinary place. When I launched the Youth Charter in March 1993, we then went in November to New South Africa, the vision for Sport for New South Africa, and believe me, that is where Sport for Development was born. I have a problem with agencies that go over to the so-called very godly term of developing countries to develop sport for development. Sport development comes from those communities because they do the most with little. I still believe we have a lot of resource, it's just not going to the right people, to the right environment, for the right reasons and the right impact. And as you say, there is money, but it's not charitable. I've never asked for a charitable donation. I've asked for an investment. And on that investment, there's a social, cultural, and economic return. That's what we're in the business of. Our philosophy is very simple, because it is important to have a vision, a mission, values, objectives. I always have a vision every 2 years of a World Championship, what I hope to achieve. And we've got to be doing that because I can tell you now, a group of young people with 3 mobile devices can change the world. They have that power, and we should understand they have that power and respect them, because they are the most knowledgeable generation of any generation. But ignorance is also bliss, and they shouldn't lose the innocence of youth. But they do need to be savvy. If every single one of you sign up to the Manchester Community Campus portal, in the time that we produce the report, you will have gone from a Cheetham collective and a tragedy, another tragedy on the streets, to a movement collective that can actually make a difference. Every single one of you that introduce yourself at the end provides all the knowledge, wisdom, and experience of hundreds of thousands of lived hours. So how can you not succeed? Those are the benefits. It's all there in your workshop packs. Because everyone said, what's in it for me? And I said, what's in it for we? And what's the return on investment? Well, we've done all of that. So what we're bringing you is what you collectively do moving forward. I might arguably have fulfilled my brief by coming back to the Manchester Communication Academy, which, as I said, my last visit here was 2014, and we did a youth consultation, and we got all their views, and we presented it to the political collective. Nothing happened. BT built and funded this academy. I contacted them in London. By the way, the negative became a positive. I contacted BT. Oh, we've not been involved with the Manchester Communication Academy. Well, guess what's going on now? That isn't what you had in mind, was it? No, it isn't. We might want to revisit that. You turn the negative into a positive. You turn the challenge into an opportunity. Disaffect and disadvantage is simply gives talents potential that's not been given a chance. Those are the benefits. That's all that it represents. And there's no genius to it, it's just common sense. If nothing else, I'm developing a PhD in common sense. That's how you get involved. It's very simple. What you put in is what you get out. But the one thing I do know is, no one will have the excuse of saying, we were there, we were part of, we participated in. And then when you all go to the Mayor's office, and Kate Green as the Deputy Mayor has the portfolio responsibility, Anthony Atkins, I made references to the person I've been liaising with, who has an exceptional breadth of personal professional experience, even when he made errors when he was there. But ultimately, it's about what we do. There's no I in this. And if the collective becomes the Manchester Cheetham Hill Collective becomes the Manchester Collective, the Greater Manchester Collective, I was spoiled, I realised 30 plus years ago. I could sit down with some major decision makers, and because my medals allowed me in, I was able to say, please, thank you, and if I got those two right, really had to say sorry. So, I said you need a QR code or you're nobody now. Unless you got one of those, I was trying to get a business card, I went no. I said if you got a QR code, I went no. And I went to walk away, and I went, they can't be looking at it, and they touched 2 mobile phones. My information went to theirs, and I went, shit. Because it happens. But be under no illusions, we are as interactively active as actively interactive. But the language, culture, and understanding of these massively talented young people, if we get it right, they will look after you in your latter years. By the way, that's the greatest return you can ever have. If you want to know what your return on investment, we're not going to have castles and drawbridges and moats, and they'll find a way to breach, trust me. But I'm hoping, Marlon, and a few of them boys remember, I went to the Moss Side Boxing Club in the mid-90s just to try and get some cred, because at that time it was likened to LA and Beirut. I went into the Phil Martin Boxing Club, and he is to be credited. We've been doing this work for years, so how have we not got it right? There are so many organisations, how are we not getting this right? Because we're not doing this. So if nothing else, my wife's telling me to shut up, but as many times I've done, we'll try and do it. We're now on 7 o'clock. She's worried we'll miss the train. We get up early, we finish late. You've all contributed. I want to thank you most sincerely. Remember the rights of the lost. Don't forget, that should be your urgency. Please complete everything we need. We will get it back to you. And the next step will be determined by you. Have a great summer. Well, it's a summer that's begun. Have a great break. Have a good evening.